Do you know that you can use prefixes and suffixes to expand your vocabulary? Overload, misunderstand, disappear, undercook. If you give it a thorough look, you will see that all of these words are made of two parts. The main part, which is called the root of the word, and some letters placed before and after such word, which are called prefixes and suffixes. You will realize that you know more words in English than you think because you can create new meanings from the word's root. Today, we'll have a look at some common prefixes. Over. Over means too much, above, excess. So we can have the word to think and add the prefix over, and we have overthink, which means to think too much about something. We have the word load, and we can add over, overload, which means to put too much onto something. We've got the word weigh. If you are overweight, that means that you weigh too much. Careful here, the noun is the weight, but the verb is to weigh. The opposite of over is under, which means not enough or below. Some words could be underestimate, so to estimate something to be smaller or less important than it really is. This means that we could easily form the opposite and say overestimate. We saw overweight, which means to carry excess weight, right? So what do you think the opposite would be? Exactly, underweight. Prefixes double L or non are negating the word, so they simply mean not. Let's see some examples. Illogical, not logical. Illegal, not legal. Nonsense, without sense. Non-fiction, not fiction. Easy, right? The same goes with de. Also, this one comes from Latin, so if you speak Italian, Spanish, Portuguese or Romanian, you will probably find an equivalent of these in your language. It is another option for making a word negative. So, for example, deactivate, so to take away the power of activation. Defrost, which means to make something that is frozen, not frozen anymore. You have to pay attention because the opposite of defrost is to freeze, and you won't say defreeze. That's just an exception. Another prefix for not is un, in, im, dis, and they all mean not, opposite of, without. For example, we got unable, to not be able to do something. We got insane, to be not sane. We have disappear. Now, there is a little trick to know when to use in and when to use un, but it doesn't really help all of the time. If the word comes from Germanic roots, you will form the opposite by adding un. So, for example, you got the word aware, and then you'd have its negative form, unaware. If the word comes from Latin roots instead, then you're going to add the prefix in. For example, from the verb to comprehend, you have comprehensible, which obviously comes from Latin, and its negative form is going to be incomprehensible.
Unfortunately, though, that is not always the case, and there are lots and lots of exceptions. For example, even though the word expected comes from Latin, its negative form is unexpected and not unexpected.
The last prefix that we're seeing today is miss. This is a great one. It means to do something wrong. So can you guess what misunderstand means? To understand something wrong. We had a misunderstanding. That means we did not understand each other well, and that created some issues. Misspell, to spell something wrong. Now, I'm going to show you the root of a word, okay? You need to add the correct prefix to match the definition. So, we got the word lead. And I want you to form a word that means to lead someone in the wrong way. Mislead. We got the word confident. What if you are too confident? You're overconfident. So we got the word privileged. What if you have fewer advantages than others, especially because you're poor? That make you underprivileged. Okay, now a person without a job with no employment would be unemployed. I hope this was useful. See you next time. Bye bye.